for our summer service internship program, and that has application dates, deadlines, program dates. You can ask questions and all that, but I'm going to go in a little bit more of a broader brush as I speak about our summer internship program, and then we can do questions and answers afterwards. I guess actually, if all of you wouldn't mind, if you would type your names and your university affiliation in the chat box, I can be able to have more conversation with you towards the end. And so I'm gonna speak about our mission in a few minutes, but I largely wanted to just give a short presentation about our summer service internship program. And for those of you who are looking for something to do this summer, this is just a fantastic opportunity for you to travel abroad to some pretty different and interesting places, to develop your professional skill sets, and really make a difference in current events. I heard a couple of people at the very beginning in introductions are studying Arabic. Do we have any other people who are studying Arabic or perhaps studying Bahasa or Kiswahili? Was there a yes for Bahasa, or were those all Arabic hands? Okay, great. So I'm glad that folks are interested in those different parts of the world, particularly Middle East. So let me start off by introducing you to a couple of our alumni, give you a sense of about our program. This is Amber, and she recently graduated from Duke University. We're proud to say that she's gainfully employed in Cambridge, Massachusetts. She works at an international development firm there. And a few summers ago, we sent Amber to Morocco to teach English at a local community center. And that's a pretty standard activity in terms of teaching English, but for those of you who have been to Morocco or studying Middle East, probably aware that in Morocco, English is at best the fourth language that's spoken. And so there's French, there's Arabic, and there's Berber. And this community center where we placed Amber and another student from the University of Maryland had never offered English language classes before. They had all different kinds of classes. They had vocational training classes for high school dropouts. They do different things related to web design. They have beautification and cosmetology classes. It's always a struggle for me to be able to say that. But they were never able to offer English language classes before because nobody there actually speaks enough English to teach those classes. And so for the last 3 years, we've been sending unofficial ambassadors to this community center in Morocco who teach beginner and intermediate English. And we actually have somebody there right now, semester program, who's teaching English. And it's an example of bringing a resource that is not really available at this kind of grassroots level to a place and to local leadership is seeking to make different kinds of positive change in their community. This is a picture of Bree. She's a graduating senior at Arizona State. And last summer, we sent her to teach biology and English in Zanzibar. We have a relationship with the Ministry of Education in Zanzibar, and every summer we send young people to go and to teach in their public schools. And you might think that they're inherently interested in only people that are going to teach English classes for them, but we've had chemistry teachers, we've had biology teachers, natural sciences, computer sciences, and it's just another great example of bringing in people that have a comparative advantage and that, you know, if they're a chemistry major or in this case, Bree has experience teaching English as a second language, and that she was able to do different kinds of interesting lessons in her English classes and using English from more of a critical thinking perspective in terms of fostering different kinds of skills and running debate club that she was able to do with her summer internship in Zanzibar in public schools. Let me offer up another example. This is Oksana. She's a pre-med student at the College in New Jersey, and 2 summers ago we sent her to Tajikistan to intern with the only autism NGO in Tajikistan. And an interesting thing, sad thing, is that autism is treated like a illness in Tajikistan, or a contagious disease, in that most autistic adults are institutionalized, and families don't have any way or any resources to be able to, you know, work with their autistic children to help them reach their full potential. And so there's this fantastic organization called AUA, who we partner with and who we now send volunteers to every summer. And Oksana, another volunteer a couple of summers ago, they designed AUA's website. And what's interesting about that is that AUA is entirely dependent upon foreign funding in order to run its advocacy activities, to run its different kinds of play therapy and group activities with autistic children and their parents and other caregivers. And they didn't have a website. And if you think about it from a development perspective, if you're an international donor and you're trying to evaluate the credibility of a small organization in a developing country, one of the first things you're going to look at is what's their web presence and how are they portraying themselves. And so Oksana and another student, they designed AUA's website, and then they trained staff in order to how to mirror that website into Russian and to Tajik. And then last summer we also sent an intern there who did different kinds of proposal research and who also did activities playing with kids at the center. But it's a very good example of the types of opportunities that we're able to offer to intern with these just incredible grassroots organizations that are really seeking to create this sort of positive change within their own community. And for any of you not familiar with Tajikistan, there's a picture of one of the expeditions that our group did last summer, an overnight hike into the mountains. It's really just a beautiful country. The last example to mention of our alumni is this is a picture of Courtney, who also recently graduated from Washington College on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. And a couple summers ago, she interned with us at a women's empowerment organization in Indonesia. And this organization was focused on advocacy on various issues pertaining to equal rights for women, but they also do a lot of counseling of domestic abuse victims, both adults and children. And so Courtney studied art history at Washington College, and so in her internship, these counselors, they were not familiar with the use of art therapy as a technique to work with victims of abuse. And so Courtney, who by no means is an expert on art therapy, but she did research and she put together a number of training workshops for these different counselors on how to use art therapy in terms of working with victims of abuse. And I'll tell you, I like to start off with all these different examples of our alumni because it illustrates the point of how each one of us has the capacity to make a difference. I've put our mission up here on the slide, and you guys can read that for yourselves, but in sum, our vision is a world where Americans from all different backgrounds and walks of life strive to build mutual respect, prosperity, and dignity with our counterparts in the Muslim world. And we're a not-for-profit organization in Washington, D.C., meaning we're not a travel company, we're not a for-profit, and actually these internships, while there's a program fee that's associated with it, more than 20% of these internships are actually subsidized by outside donors who believe in our mission and who want to see us carving out this kind of better and more substantive relationship with our counterparts in the Muslim world. Our organization, has a number of different programs where our concept is that every person can do a week to a year of service, and by far this summer service internship program is our largest program. We sent 49 students from 23 different colleges or universities over the last 3 years to 4 different countries doing this program. But what all of our programs have in common is that they do these 3 things, that we have an impact, we dispel stereotypes, and then we build mutual understanding both overseas and at home. And to, I guess, bring that together in the most effective way is that this is a picture of high school students at Mualamat High School in Yogyakarta, Indonesia, where we send volunteers over the summer to teach English. And our whole idea is that they want to learn English, and they don't necessarily have the best means to do that right now. So that by sending volunteers to help them to learn better English, then we're helping them to fulfill a goal of theirs. And at the same time, we're dispelling stereotypes of Americans in their community, that were not just the words of Donald Trump or our drone policy or what they saw in the latest Hollywood blockbuster, but people like you, Aaron, from Syracuse, New York, who have come to their community to come and help them to learn English and to extend a hand in partnership or in friendship. And then very importantly, all of our unofficial ambassadors have this commitment to build mutual understanding through blog posts while they're serving, and then when they come home to give community presentations. So they're talking about these women in Jakarta, Indonesia, as the face of the Muslim world, and not just the unfortunate images that we see that exist and that are there, but that we see on the nightly news, and that the amount in which we see them, it would make you feel as if this is pervasive and everywhere. And what we've found is the reality is there's so much common ground that we have with everyday folks who are looking for the same things in life. So with that as a background, let me give you a bit more about our summer service internship program. And the link is there for you to get some of the other details that I'm not going to go through. But let me just start off by saying that this program really combines the best of an individual experience and a group experience at the same time. From an individual perspective, in these 4 different countries, we offer 5 to 8 week individual placements, and we put together a scope of work with our partner organizations, whether that's a school or non-governmental organization, where we outline specifically what it is that you will do and how that affects the outcome, or the outcomes of that will affect the impact of their work. So with the example of Oksana and the Aroda, the organization in Tajikistan, we put together a specific scope of work where this website would help this organization to do outreach, increase the donor support that they received, be able to get their message out to a wider international audience. And so it's almost as if we have a contract and making sure that we have this impact in the community. At the same time, we work with all of our interns to create an individual work plan where we outline what are their personal and professional goals for the experience with them, and then throughout their internship we help coach them through, how is this going, how are you evaluating your goals, and then when you come back, what are the next steps in building off of those goals. From a group perspective, while you have your own individual scope of work, we put between 6 and 10 or 11 interns in a country at the same period of time. We aim to live together. They take language classes together, and these are largely in survival skills. These are not, college 4-credit classes. They do 3 cultural trips together over the course of the internship, and then there's weekly reflection sessions as well. And part of this is that we're helping you to build a network of colleagues who hopefully you'll be in touch with years going forward, and that you'll be able to share this experience with, and both the opportunities of the experience, but I don't want to sugarcoat it in terms of the challenges of these experiences as well, in terms of you're thrust into these cross-cultural opportunities, and in the end, usually it's wonderful, but in the process there are these ups and downs and the frustrations of living in a different place, and it's really useful to have somebody to share that with and to figure it out with as you go along. So I talked a little bit about at the outset of what's in it for us and our mission and why is it that we run these programs. I think it's really important for any university student who's thinking about their internship experience for the summer or a fall internship, is that you have to think about what's in it for you. And with this summer service internship program, there's some wonderful opportunities. The first is that you can earn 4 credits that will transfer to your school from the College of New Jersey by taking an internship course that goes along with this. If you go to school where we do not yet have a memorandum of understanding, we can also work with you on figuring out what are your specific requirements to get independent study or internship credit, and then supervise those requirements. We also offer a certificate in citizen diplomacy for fulfilling the requirements of this program in terms of the 180 hours of direct service and the blogging and the community presentations. And that certificate in citizen diplomacy is a chance for you to speak about this experience when you're in the job interviewing process, and to talk about the time you spent working in an NGO in Zanzibar doing HIV awareness campaigns at the grassroots level, for example. The other thing I want to mention here is the opportunities to publish, that there is a blogging requirement with this internship, and we publish those blogs on our own site, or we help you to get them published in other places. And for any of you who are thinking about graduate school and building your credentials and your publications, this is really a great chance to put together some quality product in a very short period of time. Generally, what are the kinds of places where we put interns over the summer? It's usually in non-governmental organizations or in schools. We have placements across all the areas in the 4 countries where we are working this summer. I will say that our Morocco program deadline has passed, and that we're looking at Tajikistan, Indonesia, and Zanzibar right now. And in terms of NGO placements, if you are interested in working in an NGO, we have just fantastic placements in Tajikistan in particular, in the areas of women's rights, entrepreneurship, and human rights. And then in Indonesia as well, we have a couple placements that are open in relation to building religious tolerance for people who are interested in that. And that internship in Zanzibar, we have one that's working on women's empowerment at the ground level, and also working in public health on HIV awareness. Typically, the kind of work that you'd be doing is English language communication. That could be social media related. That could be preparing annual reports. If you have video editing skills, producing short documentaries. We list the qualification and the needs for each one of these placements on our website. If you look at the country pages that, on the link that I sent you, then you'll be able to read about what we're looking for with each one of these placements. We also have a good number of placements in schools, both in public schools, like I mentioned, in Zanzibar, as well as in non-traditional places like youth centers or in summer camps. We've got some fantastic opportunities to teach in madrasas in Indonesia, which is like a private Islamic school. And if you're interested in citizen diplomacy in particular, there are just phenomenal opportunities to be the first American or the first Western that most of these students who have ever met or really spent a good amount of time with, and through the process of teaching English in those places, or doing other kinds of recreational clubs and sporting activities. I want to leave plenty of time for questions, or at least 10 minutes. We started a couple minutes late, but just leave you with this point that these kind of experiences overseas, particularly in non-traditional places, they are absolutely life-changing from the perspective of what it is that you're going to be interested in as far as people, parts of the world, lifetime friendships or partnerships that you may create, affinity for places that you might have never thought that you would go to or even considered. You know, some of you maybe never even thought about Tajikistan in your life before we started this call 20 minutes ago, and maybe the next thing you do after this call is take a look at the site and some of the just fantastic opportunities that are available in Tajikistan. These kinds of chances to take yourself and pluck yourself out of your current environment and to have everything to be a learning experience, both from a professional and personal perspective, are a truly rich experience, both in terms of where you want to go professionally, but also who you develop it to be as a citizen. And that ties back to our mission. Each of us coming forward and really stepping up and trying to make a difference in our community as far as some of the hateful things that we're hearing about in our public discourse today. So let me leave it there, and feel free to unmute your microphone, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. And I'm going to leave this slide up here because usually somebody wants to ask about, should ask about that straight off. So who'd like to go first in terms of questions? Yeah, Yolanda, go ahead, please.
What kind of accommodation would we be staying in?
Very good. I got a slide for that too. So for housing, it's a mix. For Indonesia and for Morocco, we have partnerships with major universities in each of those places. On your left there, that's El Ahwain University campus, and our volunteers live in dormitory housing with Moroccan students. In Indonesia, live on housing on Gajah Mada University's campus with volunteers living together, sometimes sharing a room together. And then in Stone Town, Zanzibar, and Dushanbe, Tajikistan, we rent apartments. Stone Town on the right here in downtown Stone, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, where volunteers share apartments together, and it's 2 per room. And the same is true for Dushanbe in Tajikistan, where volunteers live in central Dushanbe together in shared apartments, typically sharing a room. And these apartments are centrally located. They've been vetted from a safety and security perspective. There's access to internet, either in your housing itself or nearby, like at an internet cafe or public Wi-Fi system. And connected to the housing is the transportation issue. And as part of our program, if your internship placement is more than a 15-minute walk from where you live, then we provide transportation to and from your internship placement, meaning that you get picked up in the morning and dropped off, and then you get picked up at the end of the day and brought home. And that's part of our plan to mitigate risk wherever we can, and also to enable you to focus on the actual internship and the impact that you want to have there, rather than spending 45 minutes to an hour and a half taking public transportation to get somewhere. More questions, guys?
This is Joe Hobbs, University of Missouri. I have a question about faculty involvement in these kind of opportunities. I noticed on the Tajikistan call, the call was for professionals and students to cooperate. Do you ever have profs actually participating and maybe contributing on the management side or leadership side?
We do, and actually we have an academic advisory board, and I'd be happy to have a conversation with you separately about that. And we've got representatives from 20-some different colleges or universities who participate in some way or other with our program design or program implementation. And in the case of Tajikistan, we have a professor who goes out, and as part of our orientation and our setup of all these programs, we have someone from our home office or our advisory board who goes and does the first week or so in country with the volunteers and helps them to get acclimated with our country coordinator in country. And so we have someone who goes and does that with us in Tajikistan, and she was instrumental in helping us to set up that program. So we're always looking for other opportunities to engage with faculty and to help set up faculty-led programs, and I'd love to have a conversation with you about that.
Okay, good. I would like that as well. I noticed with specifically Tajikistan, there's involvement with a French NGO. How does that work out, the relationship between our organization and the host, in this case the French?
Yeah, so our model is one where we have a primary in-country partner in each country. And so from that in-country partner, we employ a country coordinator who's available on a 24-hour basis in the event of emergency, but also goes out to each site, visits interns and supervisors on a weekly basis, meets with each volunteer on a weekly basis to talk about their individual work plan, and manages all these different logistics that we're responsible for as part of this program, like the transportation to and from, the housing, the cultural trips, the meal plans, etc. And so in Tajikistan, we work with the Bactria Cultural Center, and we've been working with them for a couple of years. They're a French cultural center. We actually place a couple of interns with them every summer as well to teach English and to help plan community cultural activities, and it's been a very good relationship with them, which is continuing and ongoing.
Good, thank you.
Sure. How about Isabella, Aaron?
On an earlier slide, you mentioned publishing opportunities. You mentioned publishing through you and other organizations or outlets. What other outlets are available?
So we do a tiered approach. One is we want to make sure that every unofficial ambassador is getting his or her voice out. And so we're realistic that some people are better writers than others. Some people are talented in terms of creating photo essays or writing poetry. And in the event that we have people that are, exceptionally strong writers or have put together, really sort of the highest level publishable quality work, we help them to shop their work in other places. So there's a number of other like travel blogs and other outlets where we help people get published. We help them get published in their local newspapers, and sometimes by having an organization like ours help with the pitch, or at least help the unofficial ambassador to make the pitch in terms of cover letter and submission, then they have more success in publishing. And then if they're not able to publish somewhere else that has a higher traffic flow, then we publish on our website. But we would prefer to publish somewhere else first and then link on our website, because going back to our mission, we want for as many people to hear about these people-to-people partnerships as possible, that we're not trying to be proprietary in terms of owning them entirely by ourselves. A good place to look for specifics, Isabella, would be on our blog, and we always cross-link back. So places like Everyday Ambassador, Pink Pangea, which is a woman's travel writing site, something with Islamic Commentary, which is based out of Duke University, a couple of newspapers. Go ahead, Dawn.
Oh, you answered my question.
Okay.
Isabella is a journalist, so I think she'd bring some really great assets to any of these programs.
Yeah, University of Missouri is well known for its journalism school, and so for people who are really interested in writing, we try with them to help them maximize this experience so that they can publish off of it. And for those who really just want to share this with their hometown crowd, primary demographic, then we work with them in that capacity as well. Sorry, go ahead.
Are there a lot of safety concerns in these regions regarding the current conflicts in the Middle East?
Yeah, thanks for asking about it. I was about to go to the safety slide, so I could go through that, because to me this is obviously the most important thing. We do everything that we possibly can to prevent things from happening before they possibly do, and we're prepared to respond in the event that something happens. So we go through a vetting process in terms of picking our organizations where we're going to place volunteers. This is work that I used to do at the State Department years ago in terms of civil society strengthening work in the Middle East, North Africa, and we've applied a very similar checklist that I used to use to picking the organizations where we place volunteers. I mentioned our country coordinators already, and so we have people that from these communities and who are well plugged in and who are also responsive and something should happen. We're diligent in terms of picking our housing and going through a checklist and making sure that we can do the best we possibly can as far as all the different kinds of safety precautions with that, from exits to fire contingencies, etc. We talked about the transportation a little bit in terms of what we do to make sure, like in Indonesia, for example, we don't allow our interns to ride on mopeds. That from doing our risk assessment, that's the riskiest thing to our interns in Indonesia is riding on mopeds. So that's why we have a car that picks people up and drops them off from their placement. And then we make sure that all of our unofficial ambassadors have cell phones, a local phone and call number, so that they can be reached in the event of emergency, or that if they have an emergency that they can call a country coordinator or reach out to others who are able to help them. Obviously, we pay very close attention to current events, to State Department travel warnings, to UK Foreign Office travel warnings as well. We don't follow to a like a switch in terms of if there's a State Department travel warning from Morocco, we immediately cancel our Morocco program, but it's part of the process in terms of evaluating the risk and what governments are saying. We have a private risk assessment firm that we work with, and to date, and we've done this for 3 years now in these countries, we haven't had a safety security situation that affected a volunteer individually. There was one incident in Zanzibar in terms of a safety incident that happened there, and we went through a shutdown in terms of the volunteers who were in country, that we had them stay home until we were able to take the first 24 hours and to assess what it was that happened. Because of our local networks, we actually were able to figure out exactly what had happened before it was really public news and it was reported. And we were able to make a call in terms of proceeding with the rest of the program and saying that this was an isolated risk at a certain place and had nothing to do with our program or with foreigners in general in Zanzibar. And we went through a whole process. As soon as the incident happened, it was a political figure was assassinated in Zanzibar a couple summers ago. As soon as that happened, we contacted all parents, we contacted all the schools where the unofficial ambassadors had come from, and we went through our whole process of explaining what it is that we were doing, and then we shared all the information that we gathered in that first 24-hour period with all the stakeholders involved. So you get the news and you hear these just terrible things that are happening around the world, and it's impossible not to be concerned about it. We should be concerned about it, but I think if you were to compare statistics of violent crime in Washington, D.C., unfortunately, versus places where we send our volunteers, you would be more at risk coming to Washington, D.C. and interning in our office at Creative Learning here in Washington, D.C. than going to these other places, sadly. But I want to underscore that by saying that there's nothing we take more seriously. Our insurance provider is core. And so, Peter, if you're interested in our frequently asked questions, we have a 25-page document that we provide to our volunteers about our insurance, which is fantastic insurance. I'm happy to send that to you. Just send me an email. I'll put my there's no T there. It's .org. Benjamin O at creativelearning.org. And we're covered for trip interruption, medical evacuation, and political unrest. Okay, so I'm conscious of the time. We promised you guys a 30-minute presentation. I really appreciate you joining and your interest in our program. And just to highlight again, I know we had some Arabic students who probably were initially interested in Morocco. We have a semester abroad program, which I didn't even get to, that is also on our website called Semester of Service, where you can earn a full semester's worth of credit at Al Ahwain University. And we also have an upcoming deadline for that in May for the fall semester. You have a 10 to 15 hour a week internship that is part of that program. And just because you're initially interested in Arabic and you're studying Arabic right now, the opportunities we have available still in our Tajikistan is coming up at the beginning of next week, and then we have Zanzibar and Indonesia in another few weeks. These are great, great chances to work at a grassroots level, to work in an NGO, or to work in a school, and also to get this comparative perspective. You're studying the Middle East. There's not that many places in the Middle East that you can go these days. Yes, I'm sorry, the Morocco deadline passed earlier this week, and we have double the number of applications for placements that we have in Morocco. So our lesson learned from this year is that we need to increase our number of placements for next year, which is why the semester abroad program, it runs in the fall and in the winter, and so it's something that's worth considering. It's called Semester website as well. So please feel free to be in touch with me with questions, as well as with my colleague Kathleen, who I think many of you are already in email. That's right. And for those of you that had questions and didn't get a chance to ask them, or for the follow-up conversation, Joe, about our academic advisory board, let's set up a time to talk. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Ben.